what's the story I want to tell, and where do I want to tell it, meaning where on the page do I want to tell it. Hey, this design composition thing is called Constellation, and it's fun and it's easy, but it's fun. And all I'm doing right now is positioning this piece of paper thing, that thing, so I can make kind of a frame around my page, because I'm going to do everything inside the frame. One of the other things you can use is painter's tape. That will be just right. You can just tape it off. And instead of taping it off this time, I decided just to draw a square, and then I'll do everything inside of the square. So Constellation starts with, for me, for this piece, it started with an idea of what I wanted to sort of put inside this square. So Constellation design composition thing is all about lots of different things randomly placed within, quote unquote, the frame. And when I say the frame, I'm talking about the square that I drew outside of, around the edges. And it's easier when you start with an idea of what you want to, basically what you want to say. And that's one of the fun things about art, is you think about, what do I want to say? What's the story I want to tell? And where do I want to tell it? Meaning, where on the page do I want to tell it? With Constellation, you're using the entire area or surface to tell your story. And it's not just one focal point on the page, it is many pieces to the story. And the fun thing about this, as you see, is I keep turning my journal and doing things all different directions. And that's the thing that makes it fun. My idea for this was thinking about what my life was like when I had my first child, and the clothes that I wore, and where I was living, and what kind of car I drove, and his birthday and his name. So it was kind of this idea of, I want to document my life before he was born, or while I was pregnant with him, or that time frame, and I want to do it in this fun way that shows lots of things and tells a story without me making it a typical piece of art. And this is done more in an illustrative style. It's not, painterly and fancy and pretty with all of the, well, I like it. I think it's pretty cool. But it's not your typical piece of art with highlights and shadows and depth and all of that amazing stuff. It really is far more in line with an illustrative piece, meaning like a cartoon, or something that tells a story in that manner. And I didn't want to just draw one thing beside one thing beside one thing. And this style, this composition design thing called Constellation, really spoke to me as the way I wanted to share this information. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I thought it was really fun, and it was actually a lot of fun to do. So I chose, and I made a list of the things that I wanted to include on this piece of art. And then I started thinking about, so it was just a list of words, and then I started thinking about how I wanted to represent those words. You could totally do this Constellation style to document or to create. You could even use it to create a vision board, which I think would absolutely be cool. I may need to try that. Now that I've just said it, I may need to try that. But you could do it to document or tell the story of your garden, or plants that you love, or places you visited. This would be a great idea to encapsulate or make a documentary art piece for every place you've traveled, and the colors and the places that you've been and the experiences you've had. So anyway, this is a basic idea of constellation. Okay, so I just have to like totally come clean here and say, which I think is absolutely hilarious. When I do these videos like this, I do the art and then I do the voiceover. And most of the time I'm putting the art and the video in some type of, speed mode. So this one is, I think this one is at 8. I think the speed on this is 8 times as fast as normal. Well, what happens is I watch the video while I'm doing the narrative or the voiceover, and I catch myself trying to talk as fast as I'm drawing or painting. So if this sounds rushed and like I'm out of breath, I'm really not. I just can't keep up with myself with my silly video. This is something I definitely have to work on. And like I've said a couple of times, and I generally say in the description, I am so new to this whole YouTube thing and trying to figure out how to make it work and make it pretty and make it tell the story and at the same time be interesting. Yeah, I'm new to all of this. So, yeah, I'm kind of just talking as fast or trying to talk as fast as I'm drawing, and that's not a good idea. So, let me just apologize here. Oh my goodness, how silly is that? But back to more important things besides my trying to figure out how to do this appropriately. I like doing these Inspiration Wednesday videos because art is not difficult when we look at the term and the idea that it's just creating and telling a story and where we're putting the story on the page. But at the same time, there are rules and guidelines and things to help process where we want to put things and how we want to put them. It's kind of like taking an English class. You know what you want to say, but you don't necessarily know how to write what you want to say because there's subject and verb agreement and prepositional phrases and all of that crazy. But then once you find out all of those rules and regulations, you can decide which ones you want to use and which ones you want to break and ignore. That's the part I like. What part do I want to break and what part do I want to ignore? So when I'm doing Inspiration Wednesday videos, it's to show you or give you some of the technical arty terms for what we're doing. Like the last one was on color, I think. And now this one is on this design composition called Constellation. There are 12 design composition things, and I'm going to go through all of them, but not all in 1 week because that would drive me crazy. So I'm going to bounce back and forth between composition and color theory and all of these fun things, but I'm only doing it so you can look at this and go, I want to do that in my journal, and I know this is how it's going to work. This also helps you start so you're not looking at a blank page going, where do I start and what do I do? And it's so white and what am I supposed to do with it? So when you have the guidelines and the ideas of how to do something, you can take the story that you want to tell, choose one of the guidelines or ideas or principles or whatever you want to call them, and decide which one you want to use and how you want to use it, or if you want to just blatantly break it, which is the most fun, I think. All I'm going to do now for the rest of this video is just finish creating this one page. And again, you can see that these images are all over the page. They're not facing the same direction. They're not going the same direction. They're not all the same color. And that literally is Constellation. And I'm going to pull out the journal, my other journal, my prayer journal, because I've got a couple of images in there or pieces that kind of show this same dynamic a little differently. I'll drop those in at the end of the video. I'm just going to outline everything I just colored, and then I'm going to erase that line that I drew on the outside. If you use tape, paper tape, painter's tape, sorry, then you don't have to erase the line. You just pull the tape up and it's there. So, Anyway, this was, again, the principle of design composition that is Constellation. And it really does have that ring of the stars, and they're just scattered all over the sky, which I think is kind of cool. I hope you decide to try this little design principle thing called Constellation and just decide on something you want to document or something that you want to pay tribute to that you've done or that you've seen or maybe that you want to do, like a vision board, and make a list, figure out your images you want to put in there, and go for it. And if you do, I really hope you tag me or you show me or you tell me where to find it when you do it.